As soon as it became known that a submersible trying to reach the Titanic wreck was missing, rescuers had to deal with several scary possibilities. Could the 5 individuals on board be left with no choice but to wait as their meager oxygen supply depletes at the bottom of the ocean? Or had there been a catastrophe that rendered it impossible for them to be saved? The U.S. Coast Guard in Boston convened a news conference to confirm a depressing truth following days of fruitless searches. The sub may have imploded and all of the people on board perished, according to several pieces of debris discovered on the ocean floor. Many people are wondering why the Titan's vessel was there in the first place while investigators strive to figure out what went wrong. Despite receiving warnings about safety issues, the experimental sub's operator continued to transport guests to the North Atlantic's depths. The Titanic disaster more than a century ago served as a wake-up call for the maritime industry. In the wake of yet another catastrophe, the question is now whether or not lessons will be learned. The valiant effort to locate the missing submersible. 1 hour and 45 minutes into its dive on Sunday, June 18, the Titan lost contact with its mother spacecraft, the Polar Prince. However, it would be another 8 hours before word of its disappearance reached the U.S. Coast Guard for unknown reasons. As soon as possible, a global search operation was launched with U.S. and Canadian planes sent to the scene to fly over the area and drop sonar buoys into the ocean below. Rescuers were immediately met with exceptional difficulties. Nearly 4 kilometers below the surface of the water, hundreds of kilometers from the U.S. and Canadian coasts, is where the Titanic wreck is situated. First of all, it is chilly. 2, it's completely dark, said David Marquette, a retired Navy submarine captain. We feel 380 times more pressure outside. The Lee-filled Empire State Building is perched upon you. Few vessels can resist those kinds of circumstances. As a means of giving visibility to employees on the surface, remotely operated vehicles, ROVs, with cameras that could be launched deep into the water were given priority. After underwater noises were discovered in the search area only a few days into the search, many dared to dream that there could be indications of life. Internal government documents identifying the sounds as banging were cited by 2 U.S. media publications. It sparked hysterical conjecture that there might be survivors within the ship attempting to call for assistance. The sub had, according to estimations, 96 hours of breathing oxygen before it began its mission, so discussions about any potential rescue operations were set against a menacing countdown. Since then, the Coast Guard has claimed that the noises are unrelated. The San Juan, an Argentine submarine that has gone missing and is now believed to have exploded, was the subject of the same incident in 2017. Rescuers once more believed they had heard the sounds of the submarine's crew in distress, but they eventually realized the sounds could have originated from the ocean or marine life. Authorities are unsure of the exact time the Titan is thought to have vanished, but according to a top-secret military system, the implosion may have been detected shortly after the sub vanished. Rescue specialist David Mearns told Sky News that the only good thing about that is that it would have happened right away. The men would have had no idea what was happening literally in milliseconds. 5 affluent explorers dove into the Atlantic's depths. On dry ground, the story evolved into a discussion on social media about the stupidity of the search. The previous week has passed with unspeakable horror for the families of the 5 people aboard the submersible, though. Families fear that the 5 guys were locked on a ship in the Atlantic Ocean and could not leave without outside assistance until their fate was known. The CEO of OceanGate, Stockton Rush, 61, paid his 4 passengers $250,000 US, $374,000, for a trip to the ocean's bottom. Shahzada Dawood, a businessman from one of Pakistan's wealthiest families, and his son Suleiman, 19, accompanied him on board. According to Suleiman's aunt Asma Dawood, her nephew wasn't very up for the voyage and was terrified of going, but was anxious to satisfy his father. Paul-Henri Nargeolet, a former French Navy diver known as Mr. Titanic for his frequent trips to the shipwreck, was also on board. Hamish Harding, a 58-year-old British explorer who operated a private jet dealership in Dubai, was the 5th passenger on board. He made several trips to the South Pole and owns 3 Guinness World Records, including the record for the longest period spent at the bottom of the deepest ocean. In 2021, he will make a trip to the Mariana Trench's bottom. Regarding the risks he was incurring with his life, Harding claimed to be realistic. At the time, he added, "The only issue is that no other sub is capable of going down there to save you. You're not coming back if something goes wrong." The aim was being branded as a UK billionaire going on a sightseeing trip to the Titanic, according to Janet Mickelson, one of Harding's close friends, who expressed her displeasure. Expeditions, according to her, are also used for scientific study. These excursions are highly expensive, so we require individuals like Hamish who can fund and sponsor them while also taking the chance to participate in them and provide their experience, Why affluent explorers spend a lot of money to visit the Titanic. The luxurious passenger ship still holds people's attention more than a century after it sank to the bottom of the ocean. The British ship, named after the Titans of Greek mythology, perished on April 15, 1912 after colliding with an iceberg and killing 1,500 people on board. The maritime disaster has served as a persistent cultural landmark and served as the basis for a vast array of books, movies, podcasts, and documentaries. But only a select few have the resources, the willingness to take on risk, and the unique access needed to take part in a deep water expedition to the disaster site. After 2 successful expeditions in 2021 and 2022, OceanGate started offering tours of the ruins. These extreme excursions are not for the timid. Clients were urged to participate in an 8-day, once-in-a-lifetime experience, and exclusivity seemed to be a key selling feature for the business. More individuals have flown in space or scaled Mount Everest than have seen the wreck, according to the business, which estimates that fewer than 200 people have seen it. From what I've observed, among the extremely wealthy, experiences come at any cost. According to Nick D'Annunzio, owner of Terra, Inc., a public relations company that specializes in special events, they want something they'll never forget. But there are detractors of shipwreck tourism as well. An enthusiast and the president of the Titanic Historical Society, Ed Kamuta, told the Associated Press in 2003 that there should be restrictions on human activities near the ruins. He argued that the location should just serve as a straightforward maritime memorial. In the past, scientists have also expressed concern that people were loving the Titanic to death when visiting. Participants in professional expeditions who went in 2003 informed the New York Times that the area around the retrieval site was covered in cargo nets and chains, as well as beer and soda bottles. The safety of Titan had previously been a concern for scientists. In better times, Stockton Rush would proudly welcome people to board the Titan and take a look at it or even plunge into his innovative ship. Last year, CBS reporter David Pogue detailed his journey on the submarine. He read the waiver he had signed before the trip. An experimental submersible vessel which has not been approved or certified by any regulatory body and could result in physical injury, disability, emotional trauma, or death. Mr. Rush displayed features that seemed to surprise the journalists, such as off-the-shelf parts, camper world lights, and a game controller used to operate the Titan. A previous attempt to reach the Titanic was allegedly abandoned after the sub became lost for 2.5 hours. In the days following the sub's disappearance, several stories about safety issues revealed by OceanGate surfaced. It was discovered that a former worker claimed he was fired for raising concerns regarding testing. He and OceanGate each filed a lawsuit against the other, which was later resolved in secret. The Marine Technology Society, a consortium of ocean engineers, technicians, policymakers, and educators, is also said to have expressed concerns about OceanGate's experimental approach in a letter they wrote in 2018. The Titan's lack of classification or certification has also been questioned. The majority of the country's largest maritime operators demand that vessels that are being chartered be classified by a third party, such as the American Bureau of Shipping, ABS. Although OceanGate complied with regulations where they were applicable, the corporation acknowledged that innovation often falls outside of the existing industry paradigm in a blog post from 2019. Mr. Nargeolet's acquaintance and former U.S. Navy Captain Alfred McLaren said the hull was constructed of titanium and carbon fiber, 2 materials that react differently to pressure and temperature. Perhaps you catch a decent seal on shore. However, as soon as you start cycling that item in the water, especially salt water, it becomes disastrous. It has to happen eventually. Saul Mercadiano, a former merchant mariner, stated that one of the ironies of this whole situation is that all the main shipping nations of the globe united 2 years after the Titanic fell in 1912 to reform maritime safety and prevent another catastrophe of this magnitude. They spread the Safety of Life at Sea Convention, which specifies that you need a 24-hour radio as well as lifeboats and other rescue equipment. All of these provisions, which we currently take for granted, are vetted and verified twice, he said. According to Mr. Mercadiano, the Titan's demise might be the catalyst for contemporary transformations. There's a saying in the maritime industry that all rules and regulations are written in blood because it usually takes some kind of accident to generate this, he stated. I'm wondering if we write a new amendment to the Safety of Life at Sea Convention that includes submersible operation in international waters in a year or two. Many nations have these laws in place for their territories around the coast. However, as everyone likes to point out, this is an extremely narrow business. Do you like it? Kindly give your valuable response in our comment section below, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more interesting and informative videos.